Welcome back to Top 10 Amazing Facts. Today we are exploring the 10 plagues of Egypt. In the book of Exodus, it is said that thousands of years ago, in the land of ancient Egypt, a dramatic confrontation unfolded between a defiant pharaoh and a prophet sent by God. What followed was a series of supernatural disasters known as the 10 plagues of Egypt. Whether you view them as divine miracles, powerful metaphors, or ancient legends, the plagues have fascinated humanity for millennia. Before we begin, please tap that like button, subscribe, and turn on your notification bell for more epic stories from history and beyond. Plague number 1. Water turns to blood. Before the first plague, Moses, after receiving divine commission, and his brother Aaron approached Pharaoh, demanding the release of the Israelites so they could worship God in the wilderness. They repeatedly requested Pharaoh to release the Israelites from slavery, as instructed by God. Pharaoh, however, refused, hardening his heart against God's commands. This initial refusal set the stage for the series of plagues that God would send upon Egypt. It began with the Nile, the very lifeblood of Egypt. Moses, following God's command, struck the river with his staff, and all its waters turned to blood. Fish died, the river stank, the people couldn't drink and were forced to dig for water elsewhere. Even water in containers turned red. Pharaoh's magicians imitated the miracle, but could not undo it. This plague was meant to demonstrate God's power and to convince Pharaoh to release the Israelites from slavery. Bonus fact: the Nile's centrality in Egyptian life made this a direct attack on the god Hapi, the deity of the Nile. Plague number 2. Frogs. Then came the frogs, hordes of them. Frogs poured from rivers into homes, bedrooms, and ovens, as a consequence of Pharaoh's refusal to let the Israelites go. They covered the land. Pharaoh begged Moses to stop it, and when the frogs died, they piled up in reeking mounds. The plague of frogs added to the growing narrative of God's actions and Pharaoh's resistance, pushing Pharaoh closer to the point of relinquishing the Israelites. Bonus fact: did you know? Frogs symbolized fertility and were sacred to the goddess Heket, often depicted as a woman with a frog's head. Plague number 3. Gnats or lice. Next, without warning, unlike the other plagues, the dust of the earth transformed into swarms of tiny insects like gnats, lice, or fleas, depending on the translation, that infested and tormented both people and animals throughout Egypt, making life unbearable. Despite the plague and the magician's admission that this is the finger of God, Pharaoh's heart remained hard, and he was still unwilling to release the Israelites. Bonus fact: the Egyptian magicians were unable to replicate this plague, unlike the first two, which is what led them to conclude that it was the work of God. Plague number 4. Swarms of flies. Then came dense swarms of flies. They invaded Egyptian homes, particularly Pharaoh's house and the homes of his servants, but not the land of Goshen, where the Israelites lived. This marked the first plague, with a clear distinction between the two peoples. After the flies were gone, Pharaoh, whose heart has been hardened, refused to let the Israelites go, demonstrating his stubbornness. Interesting twist: insects were often symbols of rebirth in Egyptian culture. Here they became instruments of chaos. Plague number 5. The death of livestock. The fifth plague struck Egypt's livestock. Horses, donkeys, camels, cattle, sheep, and goats died in massive numbers, but again the Israelites' animals remained untouched. Pharaoh remained stubborn and refused to release the Israelites. Bonus fact: did you know? Egypt revered sacred bulls like Apis, a symbol of strength and fertility. This plague challenged their divine protection. Plague number 6. Boils and sores. Then a strange ritual: Moses and Aaron threw handfuls of soot from a furnace into the air. The ash became fine dust that caused painful boils on humans and animals throughout Egypt. This plague was a source of great suffering for Egyptians, causing discomfort and pain. It demonstrated God's continued judgment and Pharaoh's persistence. Bonus fact: symbolically, the soot may have come from brick kilns, reminders of Israel's slavery turned back on their oppressors. Are you still watching? Then you're awesome. Hit like if you haven't already, and let's keep going. Plague number 7. Hailstorm of fire. Next, a devastating hailstorm like no other. Hail and fire rained from the sky. This plague struck down people, crops, trees, and livestock throughout Egypt, but once again spared the land of Goshen where the Israelites resided. Pharaoh admitted his guilt and stated, "This time I have sinned. The Lord is in the right, and I and my people are in the wrong," only to take it back once the skies cleared, leading to further plagues. Bonus fact, a rare combo of fire and ice, this plague stunned the Egyptians. The message? Their sky gods hold no power here. Plague number 8, locusts. With fields already damaged, Moses warned of the next wave, locusts. The wind brought them in, and they consumed everything green left in Egypt, completely destroying the land. They came as swarms so vast that they darkened the land. Pharaoh, in a moment of desperation, called upon Moses and Aaron to remove the locusts, and he pleaded for forgiveness, leading Moses to plead with God, after which a strong wind blew the locusts away, effectively ending the plague. Despite the removal of the plague, Pharaoh's heart remained hardened, and he refused to release the Israelites. Interesting fact, did you know? Locust swarms can still devastate crops today, and some historical records from Egypt mention similar events. Plague number 9. Darkness. Then darkness. Thick, paralyzing total darkness for 3 full days. The Egyptians could not see one another and were unable to leave their homes. The darkness was described as being so thick it could be felt. No one moved. Only in the land of Goshen was there light, highlighting God's protection and distinction between them and the Egyptians. Pharaoh continued to refuse to release the Israelites, leading to the 10th plague. Bonus fact, this plague was a direct blow to Egypt's sun gods Ra and Horus. It was a sign that even light, their greatest symbol of life, could be extinguished. Plague number 10, death of the firstborn, and finally the most tragic plague of all. God warned Pharaoh through Moses that the 10th plague would be the death of firstborn sons in Egypt. Pharaoh failed to take heed, and in a single night, the firstborn of every Egyptian family died, from Pharaoh's heir to the lowliest servant. But the Israelites, who marked their doors with lamb's blood as instructed, so that the angel of death would pass over their homes, were spared. The death of the firstborns led to widespread mourning and ultimately caused Pharaoh to finally release the Israelites, fearing further retribution. The Israelites then prepared for their departure, and Pharaoh once again changed his mind and ordered his army to pursue them. However, the Israelites miraculously escaped the pursuing Egyptian army by crossing the Red Sea after it was parted by God, through Moses, allowing them to cross safely, while the pursuing Egyptians, including Pharaoh, according to some text, drowned. Interesting fact, this event became the foundation of the Jewish holiday Passover, commemorating the Israelites' deliverance from slavery. The plagues of blood, frogs, wild beast, pestilence, hail, locust, and death of the firstborn were all preceded by warnings from Moses. Lice, boils, and darkness were plagues that occurred without any prior warning to Pharaoh. The plagues were organized in sets of 3, with warnings given for the first 2, and the 3rd plague in each set coming without warning. There you have it, 10 plagues, each more severe than the last. If you found this story fascinating, there's more where that came from. The ancient world is full of wonders, mysteries, and lessons still relevant today. So like this video, subscribe for more ancient epics, share it with your friends, and comment below which plague you think was the most terrifying and why. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.